Hello and good evening. My name is Kyle Eric. This is A for Able. Today, we're continuing our journey talking about mental health, podcasting, disabilities, whatever comes to mind. And last time we had one of our podcast colleagues up here by the name of DJ Steady. Are you ready? Shout out to him for being.
Hey, shout out Steady.
Shout out to Steady for helping me start this new season of A for Able, because like I told y'all, I've been out for at least it had been 3 years prior to that I had uploaded a new episode. You know, depression had me, and then I just basically used the fact that I edit podcasts for other people as a way to feed my creative hunger. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But doing stuff for myself, it wasn't clicking, and I know we can all feel that. So today we're talking to another one of my podcast and homeboys, goes by the name of Troy. How's it going, bro?
Pretty good. Understanding everything you just said.
Yeah, I know
I've been there too. Like you get to the moments where you just kind of take a little break, but I think once you care about what you do and you love what you do, you kind of always come back to it. So even if it was like 3 years, I'm like, I had no idea, honestly, because I do still see you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I definitely still see you work and everything. So it was just like, once you said that was like, oh damn, but I've had those moments too where I look up and it's like, I haven't had a new episode in like 6-7 months. Let me get back to it. So yeah.
So you are, number one, a podcaster yourself. You're an advocate, an advocate for mental health, a 100% Black nerd, and
hell yeah,
and someone a poet, a writer, published writer. On top of that, we'll talk about that. I don't know how many books you got in the chamber right now, but you got a lot.
Yeah.
You got a lot going on.
Yeah.
And when we met, we pretty much we know a lot of the same people in this podcast space.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So shout out to all of them. So for those who don't already know, I gave them the cliff notes, but for those who don't already know, who is Troy?
Yeah. Okay. Troy is, I like to consider myself a Renaissance man, like Eric was saying, or Kyle was saying, like I do a lot of stuff. We met each other in the podcast world, but like even outside of that, I have the books. I have officially 7 published.
7?
And then 4 poetry books and 1 horror book, a self-help book, and then 2 of my mom's books that I helped out with, because I do ghostwriting now too. So I just like to I boil over with creative frustration, if that makes sense. So I kind of always have to find a new avenue for creativity. So I look up, if everything I've been doing for a while has been like, okay, not bored, like I'm not bored, but I'm content. I need to challenge myself. So I'll find something new to do. So like now with the magazine, I've been doing that for 5 months now. We just dropped the 5th issue.
Big up.
And it was like, I have reached the point of that contentment, that feeling of like, okay, creatively, I need something new. So for the most part, I do a bit of everything: graphic design, photography, music. Like, if it's artistic, I do it. That's who Troy is.
So when did you figure out that you were creative? Like, what was it? When did this start for you?
My whole life. It kind of started because I had a very vivid imagination as a kid. Like, I had imaginary friends and shit. Like, and I would make I think the earliest memory I have of it is when I would play with my toys. I had like whole series, like in my head. Like, there was no actual camera filming, but I was creating TV shows with my toys, or like movies and stuff. So it was like, I kind of knew then, and then just as I got older, it just started branching off into all these different opportunities. And I have to thank my parents because they always allowed us to kind of chase things essentially. They put me in a lot of different after school and summer programs and stuff like that, which exposed me to
Mm,
more options. So it was just like kind of my whole life.
mm.
Like I just knew whatever
And
I'm doing, it got to be creative.
no, I feel you. I feel you. My parents always encouraged me to use my imagination. They, my
Yeah,
mother especially, would rather I do that than be in front of the TV. Not,
yeah, yeah.
I did my fair share of both. You know, so
Yes, I definitely still was in front of it, but
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. So we grew up. So we grew up at a time where there was a lot of okay. There was a lot of expectations
Mm,
on on us kids, especially since we're black kids growing up in just
hmm.
growing up in America. Period.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what was that like for you growing up in Detroit?
Ooh. Um, I think a lot of times when I was younger, I might have been confused in a sense on what direction to take or what to do or what was the right thing. Like I knew right from wrong in a just a basic sense,
Mm-hmm.
but like I think so. One of my struggles was knowing I was different, and you you try to suppress that sometimes
Mm,
or pull it back, because like okay, well maybe this is too much or don't necessarily do I want to fit in here or I should try and fit in here or just it's confusing because you don't know, and then it's like there's the push to be like you said, the expectations of certain things of like some people like adult wise they know they can kind of see things, so it was like a lot of times a push for me to work harder, like you're smarter than this, you can do more than this. But then there's also the side of kids, kids, we want to fit in, we want to have friends and stuff like that, so there was like that constant battle of listen to the teachers, listen to my friends.
mm,
And it wasn't until I think high school that I started to lean more towards like, okay, yeah, I am different. Yeah, I can probably do better or stuff like that. But it was just like always a fight of doing too much or not doing enough.
mm. Yeah, it's bit. You know, I I know some people that could definitely relate to that. You know, I
Hmm.
didn't know what I wanted to do until well into my 20s. You know,
Mm, yeah, yeah,
I knew I had interests, but I had no idea what I really wanted to do as far as like for the rest of my life or things
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Uh, hmm. So when you were so you grew up with siblings too, correct?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. A lot of them. I am the middle child of all boys. And yeah, it was very interesting. There's I guess also some of those struggles there because like I said, middle child, there's always this feeling of not feeling seen or
Mm,
not being enough. Like the younger siblings can do like they just are perfect angels, and then the older siblings can do whatever they want. So like you stuck in this middle spot of like I can't do the hell I want, and I'm not like I'm not the center of attention essentially. So it's just like you feel a little lost. So I think that was definitely some of where my confusion came from too, of
mm.
just trying to find my space. And a house full
Trying
of
to find
boys is a lot.
that's a lot of like okay. They say that siblings of the same gender tend to argue the most. Was that true in your case?
Oh yeah, yeah, we used to go at it like me and my younger brother fought the most. But me and my oldest brother, me and him never necessarily fought. Me and my one of my other older brothers, though, we did a couple times too. So it definitely was always, and it switched around. My older brother and my younger brother, they had their little moments. So like it was a lot of, I think, as the testosterone starts to really grow
Mm,
and puberty and all that kick in, everybody's trying to show that they're a man, you know, like I'm and it just creates this weird competition thing of like me and my older brother, we went to the same high school, one of my older brothers,
Mm.
and we were there at the same time essentially, and there was just like this weird competition thing, you know?
Between the two of you?
Yeah, not like in a bad way, like we, you know, couldn't stand each other, but it was like, you know, we both were artists, essentially. He was the
Oh, okay.
artist that like drew and stuff like that. I was the artist that like acted and all that stuff. So it was like, and it was like a low key, hi, look what I did. Well, look what I did kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Like, you know, yeah.
So creativity definitely runs in the family.
Yes, yeah, I do come from a very creative family. My mom and dad, they both did music when they were younger. My mom writes, like I said, I helped her ghostwrite like two of her recent books.
Mm.
Um, my dad, he made music. Like it was just always a very creative household.
Well, that's great energy to be around. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
is
So I was
great
always
energy.
able to live in that creative space. Like it was never a time that it was, which again, I say certain things and I realized at the moment of saying it, like how lucky I was, because there was never a time where any of my creativity was shut down. Like I've known people who had to deal with that. So it's like,
Yep.
shit, I'm thankful.
Oh no, I hear you. My like I've been encouraged by my family because a lot of my family are creative too, you know, and
Yeah.
they always if I told them I was into something, they're like, okay, you want to draw? We're gonna get you a desk with with color pencils and stuff. You want to, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you want to do broadcasting? Well, you know, like, guess what? We're gonna make sure you get to the school. You know, it's you know
Yeah.
they always encourage it. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
just
Same.
ask my sister.
Yeah. Same.
Mm.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get so talk. So you mentioned puberty, testosterone, and you
Oof.
know trying to prove that you're a man and stuff in a house full of boys. So like, was that a you know like for me puberty was awkward.
Yeah.
Would that describe you?
Yes, in a way, but mine came from the fact that I knew I was gay.
Mm,
So it was like, and that's where, like, again, you know, parents aren't perfect. There was certain areas where they picked up the ball and they held it tight, and there's other times they kind of just dropped the ball. So in that sense, as far as my sexuality, that was definitely a ball dropped of like, well, let's just not talk about it. So for me, puberty was awkward was because I was looking at different things than what my brothers was looking at.
mm,
Um, and it was like I couldn't really like I wasn't full like I've known. I think most of us we know for as young as we can recall. Like I've known for a long time, and I
mm.
wasn't fully comfortable like talking about it until you know around ninth or tenth grade. And I told my older brother, and he was like, "My brother, I don't care. You know, like I love you." So, and it was
Yep.
like, oh, whew, a relief. Oh my
Yeah.
God, thank you. But it was like years of feeling awkward and having like this thing that I just couldn't share. And it made puberty weird at times because, you know, like I said, I'm looking at something different. Like they are like, yeah, let's go outside and play football. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But the new Beyonce video came out. And it's playing every hour on the hour, so I don't really want to miss that. Like it was just different. So
Mm.
it was a little lonely at times.
Hmm. That wow. I spoke to a buddy of mine like years ago about how he you know what he felt like because this was growing up in the 90s and early 2000s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This was
Oof.
not like as much as they want to roll back the clock
Yeah.
now. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like you know I feel like at least we can, you know, at least we can talk, like we can talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I can tell you 100%. I knew I was straight right. I knew I was straight right away.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that either. But I did have people asking me because I didn't share in the same interest that they did. You know, like
Yeah.
immediately, like you say that that everybody else wanted you to like play football and you wanted to watch, Beyonce. People wanted me to touch girls' butts and I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right. So they
Yeah.
immediately
I remember
thought,
those days too. Yeah.
man, and they immediately were like, dude, you like, I'm like, nah, listen, I just don't want to do that. It's, to me, it was
Right.
disrespectful.
Yeah.
I just didn't want
Yeah.
to do that. That's all.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah. It's the thing, like I had, because I used to have a lot, like, I had male and female friends,
Yeah.
but I had a lot of female friends. And there'd be times I'd be, chilling with just me and a few girls, whatever. And like, it was so annoying because guys would be like, "Hey, you ain't, doing touch her, you ain't doing shit with her," like, or damn, B, you got the girls, like stuff like that. I'm just like, haha, sure. Like, it's just like, okay, got it. And then, I think at some point people just kind of was like, oh, got it. But that wasn't until like high school. Literally, a lot of stuff started to kind of switch around that time. I think because
Mm,
you get older, but it was just like that was always what I did. People always was just like, "Dang, you got the girls over there," and like I've had my female friends over. Like I remember one time I was on like bed rest, and this is actually in college, so it was just like
mm,
at some point I started to get annoyed with people. I'd be like, "Stop being dumb." Um, I'm two of my female best friends that came over and they laid with me in the bed. Like we laying there
yeah.
watching movies and stuff. And I remember my uncle came over. He was like, "Oh damn, you got two of them in there with you." And I'm just like,
It
"Come
ain't
on,
what you
nigga."
think.
I am like, it's not. You know damn well
It
at this
is.
point
It
you
is
know
not what you
damn
think.
well it's not what you think.
They feel
Yeah.
safe. They feel safe with you for a whole other reason.
Right. And it was like I think too, as far as mental health wise, um, a lot of it too when you're younger, like and like I said in the time before I kind of talked about it,
Yeah.
you also feel like it's something wrong. Like I didn't go to church a lot, but like, the black community, I've been a couple times and that's like a thing, especially for the older black people of like, oh, that's just not okay. There was the stories of going to hell and people laughing or making certain comments to the side. They're not talking to you, but like they're talking essentially about your being. And it's just like you feel like it's something wrong for a second.
Do do. Okay. I I went to I went to Bible camp when I was a kid.
Mm.
Okay. I
Yeah.
went to Bible camp from age like I think it was like 14 to age 19. And
Hmm.
they had like guest speakers come, right? We would
Yeah.
stay there for like a week over the summer. And they had a guest speaker for the week. And
Hmm.
I remember this one guy, part of his sermon, he talked that anti-gay stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, so if man with man, why not man with child or man with animal? Blah blah blah." I said to my friends at the camp, including some of my camp counselors, that I was totally
Yeah.
fine with gay people. I was totally
Yeah.
fine with it. They looked at me like I had my head just chopped off. Right. Next thing I know,
Yeah.
I go to the cabin because cause we're not a cabin. It was more like a dorm room, right?
Hmm.
So I go into the room and we're having our like, our prayer time, our affirmation, whatever, right? And they're
Hmm.
like, you should feel bad for them. You should that. I'm like, no, I don't,
Yeah. Like what?
because they just people. That's it.
Yeah.
They just people. It wouldn't be until later on in life that I found out that also occurs in nature in different animal species. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's like, yo, they just people, just like you and me. What's the problem? But
Yeah.
it never made sense to me how
Hmm.
the church will preach 1 minute togetherness and helping each other out and feeding the poor, clothing the naked, da 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 da. But then when it came to this, it's like sensuality or whatever.
Oh, hell no! Now wait a
Nah,
minute.
nah, nah. You're going to hell. You're going to
Yeah.
and plus that was back
Yeah.
in the 90s. it would,
Mhm.
that was back in the 90s. Now you got people like, okay, no, they're okay, but then you have people with that still that old school attitude of,
Yeah, yeah.
no, that this is blasphemy, this is yada yada yada. I'm like,
And I think what made it like so difficult too sometimes is because there's always this belief that something happened. Something made you this way. There's no way you were born like this. Somebody did something to you, or your parents let you cry too much as a boy, or just like little stuff. And it's like, people are actually born this way. Like, because I could tell you, I've known for as far back as I can have memories. Like, it was just something else. I'm like, huh, there's something. And even as a kid, you don't really have a sexual understanding, but something is different. Something
yeah,
is like, huh. And that was me. Like, I just all like I said, I just always knew.
uh, uh, I, I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Typically like opposite for me, and I went to Catholic school.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like that.
Mm.
It's like that. That's how I knew.
Yeah, yeah, that
You
makes
know,
sense.
it's still typical. I know, but that's how I knew. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I
Oh
feel it.
man, yeah. So when did you start? Like, when did you start writing? What was the interest in poetry? And also, you have a very
Hmm.
interesting balance between poetry about love and then your love for horror. So where did that come
Yeah, yeah. So as far as poetry, it's funny because like I just kind of stumped like like I said, my parents they both did music. My dad used to rap, my mom used to sing, and well, they did both actually. Both of them rapped and sung. But um, I used to I just liked hearing my dad freestyle. I always thought that was kind of cool. And then I came across this poetry contest, and I couldn't tell you what compelled me to be like, fuck it, do it. Because at that time I didn't write poetry. It hadn't happened yet.
from?
And some just was like, enter this right quick. And when I tell you, I just wrote a quick poem. I always was really good at literature and like words. That's been my thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I could do it. So I just wrote a quick short poem. And I was in fourth or fifth grade. The poem was called Resisting Temptation. What the hell does a fourth, fifth grader know about temptation?
In fifth
Not a
grade?
thing. Yeah. And but because of my understanding of words and what I'm saying, like I said, being good at literature, I wrote this short poem that I guess just hit and I ended up winning.
You won.
And yes. And
Nice.
I was just like, oh, okay, well maybe I have a thing for this because I was just writing, but like looking back, I recall reading the poem and just being like, this does seem like something somebody older would write. But yeah, and I ended up winning, and it just was like, well, maybe there's something to this, and I did it off and on for some years until college when it went less from just something that I was good at to something I needed to do to express myself.
Mm,
It was like, college, that's some days, you start to, live a little bit more, I guess, in a sense, and
mm,
experience a bit more. And it was just like, I went through some stuff that I'm like, okay, I need to find a way to get this out. I'm like, oh, I write poetry. Just do that. And it's like, since then, I've kind of written almost every day for, I am 32 and I started back when I was 19. So
mm,
from 19 to now, I've written every single day. And it's not always full poems. Sometimes it might just be a line or half a phrase or something. But
mm,
every day I'm gonna write something down. Um, and then as far as horror, like kind of a similar thing. I was kind of surrounded by it.
mm,
Like I remember my grandma, she she had me watching the type of horror that I probably should have been watching it. It was like shit like Hellraiser and like stuff like that. And it was like I was terrified,
mm,
but I wanted more. And I don't get what that was about because I genuinely like would have nightmares. I mean, pissing myself, like looking down dark hall, like scared, but on some level, I liked that fear, I think. And I still do. Like I kind of like to be scared sometimes. I think horror has always allowed me to explore my darker impulses or just, the darker side of self
Hmm.
without actually going through this shit. Like, like, so yeah, yeah.
That's interesting because a lot of like from okay, I can't I can't sit there and watch like a marathon of horror films. I can't.
Hmm.
Like just for some, it does not. It just straight up scares me. I never
Yeah,
understood the I never understood the fascination of being scared for fun. And then a friend of mine
yeah.
compared it to my love for roller coasters, and then I kind of got it.
Mm.
But
Yeah, yeah. That adrenaline.
right, yeah, that's it. But um, so I have friends who love horror, right?
Hmm.
They got friends that love horror. They got kids that they watch horror movies with. All of
Hmm.
that, right?
Love it.
But but
It's
there's
me and my nephew.
right now, but there's something that I kind of think there's a correlation between looking at looking at the horror film and having that and having that adrenaline rush and what you went through in life. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Am I
hmm.
am, am I am
Hmm.
I am I off kilter thinking
Mm.
that? Because
No, not at all, actually. Yeah.
because a lot of my friends they went through some stuff, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they
Same.
like the Jasons, the Hellraisers, the Chuckies. You know what I'm saying? And me, I can't. Like there was a time I couldn't stand looking at porcelain dolls, bro,
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
Chucky, because of Chucky. I couldn't stand it, right? But some of my other
Yeah.
friends, they will just watch a horror film and they'll be like, "And that wasn't a good kill," and like
Yeah.
all
That's
the typical stuff. You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? Oh, black guy dies again. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Yeah.
that whole
And
thing.
that actually makes a lot of sense. Um, because I have also been through a lot of things and seen a lot of things, and I think like kind of grew up in a tumultuous household. There was some domestic violence type stuff, just things. And I think on some level, at like as you were saying it, it's clicking in my head of like I faced real life horror, and so it's like let me face some horror that I don't actually have to deal with, almost like
Mm,
because horror honestly sometimes it's kind of like therapeutic for me of like let me just put
mm,
on this movie that I've seen like a million times, but like I love it and I know what's gonna happen, you
mm.
know, versus some moments in real life we have no idea what's gonna happen next, and it's genuinely terrifying. Like there's actual trauma or well yeah, trauma of certain things that it's like let me escape into somebody else's trauma
You
almost
escape into
like
someone else's trauma because you went through
yeah.
your own. You said you went through some domestic violence.
Mhm.
You were in the closet for for a number of years, so that could not have
Yeah.
been like so you figured
Yeah.
what, this is my own personal trauma. I don't want to
Yeah. And
deal
then
with
just
this.
growing up in the hood. Like I
And
grew
you
up in
grew
the
up in the
hood
hood.
hood. Like yeah.
Yeah, and you grew up in the hood. Didn't want to stereotype, but at the same time, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you,
But it's real. Yeah.
you grew up in the hood in Detroit, and
Man,
all
I've
of
seen
that.
shit. Like I've seen a man killed. Like I've seen some shit. So it's like I never thought about it like that. But yeah, it's and I guess again, just to tie it back into my original statement though, it allows me to explore those darker halves or those darker thoughts or traumas in a way that doesn't directly expose me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because you're not
Yeah.
the one dealing with
Yeah.
the slasher coming after you, or some dude dressed up like Winnie the Pooh trying to
Yeah.
like like
Yeah.
or the guy in the hockey mask coming back from the dead constantly. You're not
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
some dude haunting you in your dreams and it actually having some repercussions in your real life. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say that I will say this though, horror can be very creative. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah. Oh
It
yeah.
can be very imaginative. It can be like sometimes it can be very twisted. But I check the tropes. I got a documentary for you
Yeah.
after we're done with this. I got a documentary for you to check
Hey, I'm
out.
always down for a good doc.
Yeah, man. We'll talk about that too. I saw a documentary years ago on Shutter, right? And it was
I love Shutter.
and it was about. Then you probably saw it. It was about black cinema and horror.
Oh yeah, I actually just watched that like a week or two ago. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I love that. Black Noir.
man.
Yes.
Yes, black noir. Like
Yeah.
that right there. That spoke like while I do not care for the horror genre, I will watch a
Hmm.
documentary on it
Yeah, yeah. There's some really
anytime.
good ones.
I will watch it. I will watch a documentary on a particular horror movie. I will watch a documentary on a director or anything like that to see where their mind was and to see if
Yeah,
that'll unlock
yeah,
something in me. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
yeah, but so because you're also because we know you're a horror guy, you're a movie buff, you've written horror,
Yes, yes.
right?
Yeah.
So what is it about going from writing love poetry
Hmm.
to writing horror? Like, what's your book called?
So my horror book is called The Cicada Diaries.
Mm.
Um, and then just first off, really quick, shout out to ADHD. I always like to look at it. It definitely has its flaws, obviously. It's times when my thoughts are going a million mile and I can't keep up, and I'm just like, please just shut up for a second. But there's also times where it almost feels like a superpower because I am the way that I'm able to work and the way that I can kind of switch gears, like, okay, putting this down, picking this up.
Mm.
Um, and so for horror, I've always done short stories. I started around like high school, just little small stuff. And then because I did my poetry books first, and after I released, the first three that I did, it was like, huh, I write all the time. I have all these stories that are just unfinished. I think I'm ready for a novel.
Mm.
And it it was funny because with the Cicada Diaries, I had, like I said, I wrote short stories. So I had about 4 or 5 different short stories that was completely separate. And I was like, how can like maybe I should find a way to connect these.
Ah.
And this day when it was really on my mind of like this idea, because that's kind of how my projects come to me. It comes to me as an idea and then it just doesn't leave until I start doing something about it. So
So it just
I'm like,
gnaws
okay.
at you, huh?
Yeah, literally. And I'm just like,
Mm.
oh, fine, I'll do it. And one of the biggest like tips on writing horror is like write what scares you. So I'm like, okay, what scares me? What scares me? I went on a walk and it was a cicada shell on the ground. And they've always just like creeped me out. I hate the fact that they're just everywhere making this noise and I can't really see them. And like, there's a lot about it. And I was like, huh. And that stuck with me. And then it just was like, okay, well, cicadas. And then I started all these other bits and pieces of life just started to pop in of like, oh, you can connect this here, connect that there, do that. And before I knew it, I had the whole book. And I was just like, oh, this is crazy. Let's do it. Because as much as I love writing, like I really admire horror writers. Like, you know, and it was a part of me that was afraid to do it, I think. Because I'm like, do you deserve to do this? Like, does your name deserve to be included in these amazing horror, right? Like, like in the
Why
conversation.
not? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I had to ask myself. I'm like, I love this is not some brand new thing I just jumped on one day. Like, this is my life. Like, yes, it does. So it's like I had that battle, and then I just shut up and do it, and I just dropped it, and I closed my laptop and walked away. Like, just do it.
What'd your family say once the like where like
Mhm.
did you have them read some pages as you had them done, or did you wait until everything was done and then like who was the first person that
So
you gave this to read and give
So
their.
honestly, this one I didn't do. Normally I do. I actually do that with my work, but with this one, I I just wanted to prove to myself that I could do it
Mm,
with trusting myself completely. So it was like, I want to share this, but I'm gonna wait till it's done. So for this one, I honestly didn't really like my family was excited because they knew how much I love horror, and it was like, oh, like you finally did an actual full, and I'm like, yeah, but I didn't share it. I just was like, just do this and, and let it go, just
mm,
to like I said again, prove to myself. So like now, with certain things I'm writing, I do share more of it, and just try to get some of that what's the word I'm looking for. Either way, I'll share now quicker, but just with that one, it was really just like I said about proving to myself that I can do it and letting
mm.
myself know I deserve to do it.
So really, the person you were trying to impress was yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, that isn't that the constant about like being
yeah.
any kind of creative. Like it's not so much about other people. It's
hmm
about it's about ourselves. That's why we're so hard on ourselves. You know.
So like, I've gotten better. I think just because I've done all this for so long, and I've had the like I think when you have those moments of being denied or told no or something's not good enough and all that, after at some point it's just like it brushes off you. So you don't even care if someone likes it or not, because like it's not the end of the world, you know? I've
Mm,
had people not like stuff that I've done, and I've had people fall in love with things I've done. So whichever way it goes, you know?
mm. So, would you consider writing your therapy, or would you consider it like just part of you?
I would say part of it because I would consider art my therapy overall. Like everything doesn't always come out the same, if that makes sense. So like maybe sometimes I'm going through something and poetry is the perfect thing. Sometimes it might be graphic design when it's just something I don't know how to vocalize. Sometimes it might be dance, I just need to move my body and get this out. Like, so it for me, art is therapy in general. Um, so even acting sometimes, like there might be, a role or something that kind of reminds me of what I'm going through. And now I can kind of really put that in that. Or, just anything artistic is like a portal for me. So it just depends on, I guess, what I'm feeling and what it's calling me to.
Mm. And as far as acting, right?
hmm
Can you remember what it was like when you first started acting? Like, do you remember what your first role was?
Yeah, I loved it. And I was so mad. So sixth grade, um, and it was a Christmas Carol. And I
That's
played
scary.
the Ghost of Christmas. Yeah. And I played the Ghost of Christmas Present. And I I read everybody's lines. So I knew everybody's I read the whole thing, so I knew
You memorized
everybody's
the whole
line.
story.
And I wanted to be Scrooge because obviously he's the major character, and I wanted that so bad. But this other guy got it, and I remember being mad because it was points where he didn't say his lines right or shit like that. I was like, oh, it should have been me. But like, but I just remember, I don't know. I think it was just something about. I also come from a kind of family where like the kids do stuff for how the adults be like, oh y'all come show us that new dance or
Yeah.
just little stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was like me and my brothers and my cousins who was always come show us something. So for me, it was always movie lines and stuff because my memory, it was like I watch a movie, I know the whole thing now. So it was like I was always the one who did the movie lines and stuff like, oh, do that part in that movie where they do that. And I'm like, okay, So I've always had that, and that was very exciting for me. And then it was like starting to do plays and stuff like that. It was just like I wanted bigger and bigger parts. Like, okay, I do the small part, whatever, but I want this major one. And the crazy thing is, when I was in high school, we were gonna do the Wiz, and I was a scarecrow, and that was like the biggest part I had up to that point. I was just so excited, like, yes, this is like. And then our funding fell through, so we never got a chance to fully do it. But we
Oh,
rehearsed it. Yes, the
the
joys of going
funding
to
fell
black
through.
high schools. Nope,
Wait,
no
so
funding. So it was like we rehearsed for like 6 months, learning the music, the dances, the acting, everything. And I remember just being so excited because, like I said, this is a big part. And yeah, it fell through. So we never got a chance to actually officially do the play. And I was just like, damn. And that was one of the times I learned just about budgets and the black schools and stuff like that, like how that goes. Because it was like, damn, it's been part of our life for a while now. Like,
So wait a minute, hold on a second. So you need to pay for the rights to do a well-known play, right?
well, no, it's more so the funding in the sense of costumes and set design and stuff like that. Of just like they just didn't have it,
You
and it was
think
like,
you think they'd have all of that set up before you started rehearsal?
yeah, you think. And honestly, I think it might have been, but like throughout between that first month and the 6 month, that time frame, I think it just,
It just did, but
like
six
it just
months of
didn't figure
rehearsing,
out anymore.
6 months of rehearsing though. And I
Yeah,
get that
yeah.
you said you grew up in low income, but still, like
Hmm.
it
In that black area, like in the hood, that
I don't want
yeah.
to. I don't want to stereotype so bad. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah, yeah, but it's
but
true.
at,
It's
but at the
real though.
same
Like
time,
they take that fucking money away real quick. Like, you know
like
what? Actually, never mind.
bro, are you serious? 6 months of rehearsal, so you never did it?
Yep, yep.
Wow.
Like perfecting it. I'm like, I was so excited, and it was just like, it was a heartbreak moment because it was like, damn, we okay, well, there's that. Like,
So
yeah,
you got, but you did, but you got the part of the
yeah, yeah.
spirit, bro. You about to get your Michael Jackson on, and
Man, it's so hard. Like,
man, man. Yeah,
excuse me.
I gotta tell my sister that's one of her favorite joints right there.
Yeah,
Oh,
I love it. And it was just like, I remember because a few of my other friends were in it too, and we just used to like, even when we wasn't in rehearsal, we like singing the songs at the bus stop, like just what I'm saying, and just
what's your favorite song?
heartbreak. Um, so mine's mostly is "You Can't Win" because that
Mhm.
was my song. But then I also really liked "Ease on Down the Road," and then there was I cannot recall the name of it, but it was the Lion song.
Yeah.
I do not, I cannot recall the name of that one, but yeah, his songs.
Mm,
Those three were
wow. Mm. And
crazy.
man, life is crazy.
Yeah.
6 months of rehearsing though. I
And
can't
like
get
I
that.
got a chance to honestly see that throughout my high school career. So I went to the same high school all 4 years, and between my ninth grade year and my 12th grade year, there was so many extracurriculars that just got snatched. Like ninth grade, that was band and robotics. It was just so many different things. By that senior year, it was like you're either playing sports or you're academic. And we were lucky enough to still have, choir because I was in that. And then we had a drama teacher who kind of turned her class on Fridays. Never forget her. Miss Talaferro, she would turn her class Friday nights into like basically a Saturday Night Live episode. Like you just come in, all like the actors and singers, and we just perform all day. Like, so, it taught
Mm,
me the budgeting of how that goes, in those in areas like that, but also that there are teachers who care. Because the choir
mm,
teacher and the drama teacher pretty much were everything was out of their pocket almost.
mm. So was that like one of your, would you consider her like one of your mentors?
In a way, yeah. I mean, I haven't talked to her since, but like
Mm,
just her doing that for us, giving us a space because we didn't have one for real. So it was like, okay, Friday, I want all my actors, I want all my singers, like performers. We would do sketches, just random stuff, and it was good to have that outlet and that place to just do it
mm.
because we had nowhere else to do it.
Wow. Mm.
Yeah,
That's a lot. So when
Yeah.
did when did podcasting come into play for you?
Um, it another kind of moment of like creative frustration almost. I went through a few things. I was in this spot, turning 30, things you just kind of get really introspective and just kind of started looking more inward at certain things. And I was in a spot of like looking at my love life. Cause for me at that time it was just like confusing as hell and just weird and just I just didn't understand it. And I was like, I want to try to explore this. And I've journaled most of my life, and it was like these all these pieces kind of started coming together.
Mhm.
My ex, we lived together, and he had this microphone that he never used, and he left it, once he moved out or whatever. And I was like, huh. And I started to notice more of them. I started to listen to more podcasts around that time, and I'm like, huh, maybe I should do that. Like, I could explore, what I'm kind of going through in a way that almost feels like writing in my journal, but you know, in a vocal way. And just because sometimes all you need to do is kind of talk things out to really understand them.
Yeah.
And boom, and a love journal came to mind, and it was like I remember doing the first couple episodes, and already within like the first few, I started to just feel better in a sense of just like releasing some of these things. I'm like, yeah, this is like therapy. Like, that's kind of crazy. I didn't expect it to be like that. I just kind of
Mm.
thought, just talking a little shit on the microphone. But it just like the more I did it, the more, like I said, I started to understand myself and my love life. And I was like, well, yeah, this is the goal of the show, and this is working. Like, so it was just like a mix of stuff, and I just really wanted to um explore myself in another creative way, and boom, podcast.
Podcast was born. Love Journal was born. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's I think like I think that yeah that's how we met. We met through Brian
Hmm.
P and the rest of them.
Yeah,
Shout out to him. Shout out to everybody really. You know
yeah,
that's
yeah. And then that too, because it kind of changed my life in that sense, because I started to be like, meet all you guys, and it's like other projects were born from that. So yeah.
like the Upsurge magazine, for example.
Yes, exactly. Probably wouldn't even be
And
doing it if I didn't start this.
so you got like five. You got five issues out at this point.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So what is the goal with the magazine? What's the focus?
Um, so essentially the goal is just to be a source for us. And it's not to shut anybody out, but like, you think of the days when we had a lot of black magazines of like Source and Jet, Ebony. It was just like so
Five.
like I remember because I grew up in a yeah, like my mom and my godmom, they both used to have a lot of magazines in their house. Like they kept subscriptions and all that. Yeah, Vibe, like yeah, like it was so many for us. And then
Mm,
nothing. Like they kind of just went away. And we still have like Essence, and no offense to Essence or anything, but it was just like what happened. So I knew that going into the idea that that was definitely the main goal of it, of like being something that's talking about us, for us, by us, like it is not, like I said, not to shut anybody else out, but this us. And I wanted to one at some point, like I definitely wanted to be physical, but because of a lot of things are digital right now, so I really wanted to kind of start it off in that realm.
mm,
And like I said, at some point I want it to be physical, and I see it being really major. Like I see it being like me and Eric were talking the other day. He like, shit, we could probably have a TV station one day. Like I'm like, yeah, but why not? Like the the
why
the
not?
sky's the limit kind of thing. Yeah,
I can
it
yeah,
is.
I can,
It's
I can see that
growing.
happen.
So yeah, like it's crazy. So yeah, it's definitely the biggest goal is just to be a resource for us.
And I'm big on names, right?
Mm,
Like
yeah.
when I'm looking for like a band to listen to or whatever, I look for a unique name. Right? I look for a
Hmm.
unique name. I look for a unique style. Upsurge is a unique name to me. So how did
Hmm.
that name come about?
It's funny. Life is always kind of throwing stuff at you, and I think that's why it's good to look back sometimes. Like definitely don't stay in the past. Always look forward, but occasionally just look around. Life is giving you little pieces of stuff. So about 3 or 4 years ago, me and my brother, like the one I was saying that's also artistic as well. Like
Yeah.
we were thinking of stuff, but we haven't done it yet, and it's gonna happen one day because I'm gonna force his ass to. But I'm like, we could create something amazing together, like what we both know how to do. And so the idea at that time was possibly doing a clothing line. And one of another family member was like, I would help y'all fund it, even like, so it was, becoming a major idea. And I came up with the name for it, Upsurge, because I'm like, just I feel like if we do this, it's gonna shoot up there. It's gonna be crazy, And the definition of upsurge is a sudden increase, essentially. So it's like um that was just like how I felt things would go once we did it, but we just never did it.
Mm,
So I even have hats with like I made a little logo for it and everything, and just nothing came from it, unfortunately. Circle back 4 years later, and I'm like, damn, what would I call this magazine? Like if I do it, and I'm like, huh. Yeah, I guess I could just use Upsurge because I never did nothing with it. And I'm like, it could still mean the same thing of like, once I do this, I and it was also the thought of wanting to bring a sudden increase to us,
mm,
to what we're thinking about, what we're doing, like highlighting new businesses and new writers and new artists and black, just more attention to us. And
mm.
so it just fit. It literally just fit. And I was like, huh. So that's why I came up with that 4 years ago. Because it damn sure it wasn't for the clothes.
I mean, you can still do both.
I mean, yeah, yeah, of course. But it was
You
just
know.
like, where it was birthed
Yeah.
versus,
Yeah.
where yeah.
Yeah, and oh man, okay. So speaking of having, something for us. What do
Hmm.
you think about now? We have like I have never seen so many different, like so many different avenues for, for like for black people by black people.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like honestly, like big ups to everybody doing it to be honest, but at the same time,
Yeah.
see, like when somebody says buy black, right?
Yeah.
When somebody says buy black and then here are the resources. What do you say? What do you feel like when you see that? You know?
Yeah. I definitely support it. I just think, and it's unfortunate. And I do think we'll get better with it, but I don't think you can do that for everybody because unfortunately, the idea is to be looking out for us, but not everybody's actually looking out.
Mm,
So, you do still have, and that's everybody too, but you do still have the shady business dealers or, the scammers and stuff like that. So it's like, buy black, but be careful.
because the scammers are everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, and some people don't really give a fuck. They're just saying something to be on the bandwagon.
Mm,
And they might do shit like I've been in situations like that where a shady business or just not professional. And it sucks. It's like, damn, I really wanted to support you, but you're not professional at fucking all. Wow. Like, so it's like I said, buy black, but be careful.
mm.
That's what comes to mind for me.
Uh, what do you do the like? What do you besides your love for creativity? I remember because you
Hmm.
and I we've done a handful of shows
Yeah,
together,
yeah, yeah.
right? I remember one show we did. I think we were talking. I forget what we were talking about. I think we were either talking about
Hmm.
Dragon Ball or X-Men, right?
Ooh,
And
yeah, I feel like X-Men, but yeah.
yeah, and at one point it was you, me, and another one of our homies, and
Yeah,
you had a sound bowl, right? You had your
yeah,
like you wanted to start off with some positive energy, so you had your sound bowl, and you had a and you just you know went silent for a few seconds before we started. when did that come about as far as your your look on spirituality, your like the spiritual
Hmm. I think on some sense it was kind of always there, but I
thing?
just didn't know how to explore it. Like I was always very sensitive to energy and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it officially kind of became a genuine journey for me when I was in college, like around the same time I started writing and stuff. I just had a life at that time kind of broke me open.
Mm-hmm.
I had a really big spiritual awakening, like, and I remember the specific moment is I was just overwhelmed emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and I like went out in the rain crying as it's raining, and I just like screamed, like fuck, like it was just a lot, and it something about that changed, and I wanted to change it. I wanted to feel better. I'm like, I just I just want to feel better. I don't understand why I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And it just led to this journey of so many things of like Buddhism. I don't have a specific religion, but if I had to pick one, that's the closest for me. It led me into meditation. It led me into yoga and tarot and crystal, just like a lot, astrology, numerology. Like I was just like, I think in an essence or in a way of like just trying to find understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it kind of just branched off from there. So it was like I was always learning or finding another way for calm or for peace. And so, like I said, it led to the song or the sound bowls and just yeah, everything that I'm into. So like I started to notice that it was genuinely making a difference
Mm-hmm.
and just how I carried certain things and the way that certain things just stopped affecting me altogether. And I'm like, oh, I actually don't care about this anymore. Like, so it's been a part of my life for about 15 years now. And I don't really see it going nowhere. Like at all.
Growing up in the black church, right?
Mm, hmm.
Growing up in the black church, when okay, so how am I gonna say this without? I don't want to,
Hmm.
but at the
Yeah.
same time, I don't have a specific religious belief either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
It took me a while to get out of the. It took me a while to get out of the programming that they were, you know,
Yeah.
that I originally was
Woo.
under
Yeah.
when I was, a kid. No offense, no
Yeah.
offense to people out there, but that's what it felt like to me. It
Yeah, of
felt like
course.
indoctrination. It felt like programming. It did not feel genuine. Never did.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but when it came to things like meditation, your fascination with other spiritualities like Buddhism, was there any
Hmm.
pushback from anybody
Oh,
else?
hell yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Like I'm still having these conversations with my family. Like I just maybe about a month ago I had a conversation with my grandma and it was just like I've always been an inquisitive person
Yeah.
and I don't necessarily like to be told what to do
Mm-hmm.
and just do it. Like I'm gonna ask questions like so why? And a lot of us unfortunately, especially when it comes to religion, we don't ask questions. We're just like, "Oh, okay, this is what it is."
Because we're told not.
And yeah, so it's like the older I got, the more I'm like, "Well, hold on now. Wait. Something's not clicking." And like for me, it was always the things that I was into were referenced as demonic,
Right. Mm-hmm.
Um, like yoga. I'm like, I yoga honestly wasn't even a spiritual thing for me at first. It was literally a physical thing because I hurt myself. And it was like, well, I need to stretch. And the more I did it, the more better my body felt. I was like, wow, this is great. Yoga's the devil. No. It was like, okay, I started to like I said, question things. And my grandma, we had a conversation recently where I I'm at this space where I realize it's like Trump supporters. Like at some point, unfortunately, there's a block that they're not going to hear you beyond.
Mm.
And it was just like there's always this well, you don't know God or you don't have a relationship with him. And I'm like, no, y'all are confusing God and religion. I know God. I have a relationship. I have a journal full of prayers. Like when certain things just get too much, I'm like, okay, I need to pray. And I write them down. Like I have a relationship with God. It's just not the God from the Bible. Like I think God is much more than that. So it was just always I mean,
Yeah.
everything you're a demon. If you're not,
This
following
way.
this, then this is demonic and everything you're doing. And I'm just like, all right, well, I guess I'm a demon. Like,
Wow. Like that right there, that shows a very strong sense of self. You
hmm
know,
hmm
that's a strong sense of self. It took me a while to get like I've only really been there last couple of years. You
yeah,
know, to be a to have the like to have that state of mind that you do, it is very telling. Like, yeah, you said
yeah,
God or whatever you want to call the spirit, the spirit,
yeah,
spiritual self, whatever. you know you know you know God. But they're mixing God with religion,
yeah, yeah,
right? Like one of my elders said to me one like out loud one day, they're like, religion is man-made. Your
yeah,
relationship
yeah,
with insert whatever deity you believe in is your relationship with whatever that spirituality is. It's got,
yeah.
like I said that I said something similar to that with my grandmother, because my grandmother tried to convince me to go back to church. And I said, Nana, it's, you don't need to go to a building to go to church,
No,
right?
yeah,
That's just a building. The church is the community. But if you're
yeah,
not, but if you and the community are not connected, it's not. It's
yeah,
like, it's nobody. And they're always thinking that it's somebody's fault.
yeah,
It's nobody's fault. Everybody has a different journey. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
everybody has a different journey. I get along with just about everybody, but I have been in situations where they've tried to reconvert me. The minute I
oh
tell
yeah.
them I don't have a role, at one point, somebody tried to bring me to their church, and they compared me to Osama bin Laden in the same sentence.
Okay, well that's fun. Wow. But that's exactly the point of like you're if you're not like this, you're evil.
Then
That
you're
that's
the
that's
enemy.
just it. That's it. Like, and it's crazy because they don't. Half of them don't even fully read the book that they're talking about anyway. Like,
Mm.
yeah, but yeah,
It just says a lot. Like I'm all for people, having a religious community and all of that. I'm all for
yeah.
that. What I am not for is you pushing it on
Yeah,
other
and
people.
demonizing anything else.
And
And like
exactly,
I'll go to church occasionally. I'm not gonna, I'm not every
yeah,
Sunday kind of guy, but
yeah,
once a year or something like that. Like I'll still go for I think the energy sometimes can be
mm,
good, and just to have that feel and stuff like that. Like I went the first Sunday of this year, and it just felt good.
mm.
But like I can't imagine looking at somebody and what they believe in and just being like, oh no, that's evil. That's not. I mean, unless you just straight up like sacrifice the motherfuckers or something
Right,
like
that's the
like
yeah, yeah.
that's a little different. That's
There's
pretty evil.
exceptions, yeah,
Yeah, but yeah.
and but yeah, that right there, that's a strong sense of self, my brother, and I respect that.
It's a
Nothing else.
lifelong journey to
Life,
get there.
yeah. So it's a lifelong journey. The ultimate thing is, are you happy with where
Yeah,
you are?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I am
Because
extremely happy where I am.
and look at where it got you. Like
Yeah.
you have so many, like you said, you have that creative overflow. As a
Mm-hmm.
result, you have made your dreams happen.
Yeah.
Like you've met a community of people that can really relate to where you're coming from, and
Yeah.
now you have books and businesses, and
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
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 so much.
just crazy to think about out loud because so much of growing up for me was trying to find myself
Mm,
and like I said earlier, relate and try to be. It's like I think it takes a point where you realize I am actually different. It's okay to be different. Let my like live in your difference because then now you get to do like what I'm saying. Because of that, I've not just done the podcast and the books and stuff. I've had my work shared on Adult Swim before, which I thought was insane. I'm like, wait, they got my graphics up? Excuse me? Like,
hold it. Wait,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we've talked. You never brought that up.
Because shit just happens sometimes, like, and so
We've
I
talked
soak it
many
in for the
times. You
moment, and
never
then I
brought that
move
up. When that
on.
happened?
Like that was, I want to say, was it 2000, like, or not 2000, 2019, 2020, somewhere in that area. They were
That
doing like a
recent,
black
huh?
artist thing.
Yeah.
And they were just sharing all the black art that was kind of essentially submitted to them, and one of my pieces was shared. I was like, wait. This is adults, I mean, yeah, if anybody, like
Adult Swim.
Adult Swim,
Adult
we watched
Swim.
it since kids, so it was just like a crazy moment for me. Or like this time that I got a chance to shoot Fashion Week as a photographer. Like I whole ass went and done that, and it was like I literally had nothing scheduled. But a friend of mine, she was a model. She's like, just fuck it, come out here. I barely had any money. She's like, just come on. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. And all I had to do really was walk around with my cat because I have, the camera bag and all my equipment. I had like 5 shoots that people just was like, oh hey, can you shoot this? Oh, you shoot? Like it
That's
was,
dope,
so it's
man.
like living in your difference. Like it just made me think about the quote in Coach Carter. I remember always hearing this and never fully understanding it until honestly recent years. Our biggest fear isn't that we're inadequate, is that we're powerful beyond measure. Because then now there's these expectations. Now there's these you kind of you have to be that. And if you don't know that, it's kind of scary of like, but it's like no, you're actually afraid of how good you are. So
Mm.
yeah.
And I think I'm gonna call this episode, and you can you can change it if
Yeah.
you want. But I think I'm gonna call this episode "Living in Your Difference."
Yeah. Cause yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, geez, man, that's like so much. Like that's so much. And when I bring my nerdy podcast back, I know we're gonna be
Yes.
talking again at length.
I gotta bring mine back too. I've been thinking about it. I'm just like, I'm trying to adjust certain things in life. But once that
Yeah.
happens, I'm on it.
Oh yeah, no, most definitely, man. I really appreciate you coming on here because, like I said,
Course.
this is me basically relaunching my the A for Able podcast, and
Hmm.
I appreciate you telling your story and sharing sharing your like your creative energy with us. So
Yes,
as
yes.
far as the things that you're doing, like as far as as far as your books and your other
Hmm.
podcasts, where can we find all of that?
Yes, yes. So I mean, the crazy thing is, you can Google Troy D. Ryan and a lot of it pop up. But
Mhm.
specifically, all of my books are on Amazon currently. Um, Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that you get podcasts for the most part. Um, yeah, a little bit everywhere,
Yeah, I will be dropping some
TikTok,
links.
Twitter, all that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Trigger Troy D is essentially the whole social media spiel, so that's everywhere, like uh Twitter, TikTok, all that. So yeah,
All right, you heard that, people.
YouTube, all that.
All the links will be in the description. Thank you for everyone who's listening, wherever you're listening from. Everybody that's been watching
Yes,
on the
yes,
YouTube channel, big ups to you. But before we sign off, I got one
yes.
more question for you.
Hey,
Okay?
okay.
Say that the younger Troy comes to
Mm-hmm.
you one day, just pops up out of nowhere one day, and asks
Yeah.
you the question, "How did we turn out?" What would you say?
Ooh. Uh, that's crazy. I would say we turned out real.
Turned out real.
um, Yeah, I am never. I don't think I've ever been so myself as I have been these past few years, and I just think or not even think. I know that it's leading me to a place that I've always seen in my life. Like I've kind of always seen my future since I was a kid. Like I just knew. And life happens, you get confused, like I said, you try to fit in and shrink yourself in certain ways and stuff like that. But it's never felt more in my reach than it does now, which is ironic because life is kind of in a crazy spot, but I don't feel I don't know. I don't feel afraid. Like we are very real. You are so yourself that nothing is gonna get in the way.
Big ups, bro.
Yeah,
That, that
yeah,
was that was beautiful. That was beautiful,
yeah.
man.
Oof, yeah. I try.
And you had to think about that one, huh? Though, huh?
Yeah, yeah, but because I'm like, I don't know, because I'm also not, like I said, I'm not fully where I want to be, but at least that's just physical. Because on a spiritual, mental, emotional, creative level, I'm exactly where I want it to be. And so it's just this last part, essentially, that's taking a second, but like I feel the most myself. There's nothing about me at this time that's not real or honest.
Dude, much respect,
Yeah,
much respect,
yeah.
dude. And well, we'll definitely be linking up again
Yes,
soon
yes,
for
yes,
another one. Whether it be a project like this, or one of our friends has us on another show
yeah.
again. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's very, like we will definitely be
Oh
talking
yeah.
again.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But in the meantime, in between time, man, I want to thank you again for joining us
Yes,
on this
yes.
episode of A for Able.
Thanks for
And
having me.
and honestly, just keep living your difference, man.
I am. I'm trying. I can't help it at this point now.
Right?
Think I've reached a
Exactly.
point where I can't even be nothing else.
Exactly. And for anybody else feeling that they can relate, keep living your difference. Keep
Yes.
living your difference. And check out and check us out for the next episode of A
Yes,
for
yes.
Able.